Throughout the semester in our televisual culture course, we have examined the history of television and how it has evolved through lectures, readings, and most interestingly, episodes from the 1940s to the present. This video is my attempt at my own formal analysis, deviating from the course episode list, and going out into the infinite catalog of available shows to formulate my own thesis. And I think I was able to do so and find a pretty good episode through the Bears' iconic holiday episode.
Oh, fuck me, dog.
Merry fucking Christmas, bro.
What?
Merry fucking Christmas.
The primary scene of analysis from The Bear, Season 2, Episode 6, titled Fishes, is one of the most intimate, nuanced scenes I have seen on television. But what evokes this feeling inside us, the audience? Is it because the prior 30 minutes of television have been non-stop chaos ever since we entered the Brazato family Christmas dinner? Maybe it's due to the nature of the sound, or lack thereof, or perhaps the acting. These are all, without a doubt, factors contributing to the overall beauty of the scene. But personally, I believe what takes this shot to the next level is the way in which we are shown the scene through cinematography. In this scene, the detailed attention to cinematography in tandem with editing display classical production techniques associated with the medium of cinema and are beautifully executed in Fishes, Season 2, Episode 6 of hit FX comedy drama, The Bear. The attention to detail of this technique, specifically within the medium of television, is evidence of the legitimization of television following the convergence of the medium, more specifically, how television has become cinematized. But we'll talk more about that later.
Sorry, I just need a second. I just need to go look at this.
Thank you.
The first shot of this scene is a long take, holding for 1 minute and 54 seconds. It starts in a long shot. We have a normal depth of field. The entire frame is in focus. The cinematography team makes the choice to aperture frame Mikey, played by John Barenthal, and Carmy, played by Jeremy Allen White, within the tight confines of the pantry. Their blue sweaters stick out across the yellow hue of a color grade. Fun fact, yellow and blue are exact color opposites on the color wheel. The blueness of their clothes and their non-conventional framing keeps our eyes locked on the two brothers, dead center of the frame. There is a noticeable calmness about this first shot, especially in the context of prior scenes of messy crash zooms,
Whatever, okay.
blurred pans,
You were saying we got to free up one of the slots in the oven, right?
Oven
Yes.
slots. So
Okay.
then we take the artichokes out. So then I need you to put the
and unrhythmic cuts. This shot feels stable, secure. It was most likely shot using a tripod, which we call a mounted shot. We don't see mounted shots very often in the show, I'll tell you that. A slow zoom centered on Mikey and Carm guides our focus, as if to say, yes, you were right, you were meant to look here. Just before the first cut happens, the gradual zoom that started 1 minute and 54 seconds ago has taken us all the way from the long shot to now a medium shot, heightening the intimacy of this conversation. The team makes a really interesting choice when Carmy leaves the first shot. The shot holds on Mikey, intentionally. We see his raw reaction, bringing us into the psyche of Mikey's mind at this moment. Then, after 1 minute and 54 seconds, we get our first cut. It smacks you right across the face, fully a page out of Sergei Eisenstein in Discontinuity. We get an ultra close-up, extremely shallow depth of field shot, followed by a series of reverse shots between Mikey and Carmy. The scene begins to lose its stability. Handheld tracking shots of Mikey and Carmy's faces are overemphasized by the extreme close-up and unorthodox sporadic movement of the frame as the cinematographer tries to match the action of the two actors. Their faces, their expressions, their emotions are blown up and shoved right in front of our faces, dead center for us to see. It's the only thing we can see in the frame. The cinematography is screaming out at us, forcing us to look at the face of Mikey, to look at the face of Carmi, and to see what their reactions are.
Yeah, Mike, we could do this, you know? Yeah. Let her rip. Yeah, let her rip. Yeah, Carm.
Carm, where the fuck are the gold teeth?
Put the thing with the cracker.
We stay in an extreme close-up. The shot holds for 24 seconds. The shot shifts in and out of focus. The frame is as unstable as his mind and eyes that dart back and forth. All we can do as the audience is watch this beautiful display of how cinematography is mimicking Mikey's mental status. The cinematography is elevating the content of the story.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's not style for the sake of itself. It's style that is serving a purpose, either, pushing the story ahead or setting up something thematically. Okay, now we're going to get crazy, and more about let's try, as directly as possible to get something into the interiority of what's going on in Carmen, what's going on in Sydney's head, how Richie is feeling right now.
In this clip, Adam Epstein, one of the directors of The Bear, is discussing how they use editing within the show. While he's talking about a different scene and a different technique, they demonstrate the overall intentionality behind every shot and every cut of the series. It can absolutely be said that the cinematography team, who works very closely with the editors, has the same mentality about their work and how it serves a massive purpose in telling another story, a visual story about the characters on screen and continuing to develop their emotional state. The shots themselves are stunning, a visual spectacle of their own. But the shots also serve to help understand the level of detail and specificity that the cinematography team and overall production teams think about in terms of using cinematography as a narrative device in The Bear that conveys deeper meanings and deeper layers to its characters. The scene we analyzed is just one example. Throughout the rest of the episode, in fact, the rest of the show, there are countless more shots and scenes that operate with the same level of cinematographic excellence that subconsciously, but intentionally, enhances our viewing experience of The Bear. Cinematography is a key element that has a strong function in serving The Bear's overall story, utilizing the operational aesthetic, which I will talk about in more specificity in a moment, to not just create a spectacle to be viewed on our televisions, but as a device that enhances the complexity of each character's arc. The Bear is an amazing show. If you haven't watched it, I recommend doing it, right away. It is all the hype too. It's an example of great television. And it is classified as such not just because of the amazing storylines and gripping characters, but because of how techniques such as cinematography and editing and sound design are perfectly used to elevate the story to one that merits a near 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I am not saying that Rotten Tomatoes is the end-all be-all, in that if something has an 100 on Rotten Tomatoes, it is automatically amazing. But in this case, they did a good job. But what does great television mean, though? Why is this important at all to us, especially in the realm of this discussion? Well, the reason being is that as an audience, our expectations associated with television and the medium have changed drastically throughout the history of television. The techniques I listed above, cinematography, editing, are classic film techniques synonymous with the medium of cinema, and cinema only. However, as technology has improved, it has paved the way for these cinematic styles and characteristics to creep their way into the medium of television, cinematizing it. The medium of television that exists today, one that allows for the popularity of serialized dramas like The Bear or Game of Thrones or The Sopranos, in this era of convergence, is very different from television programs in the broadcast era.
What are you talking about?
Specifically, in terms of its artistic value as a legitimized medium. The broadcast era was dominated by three networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, who controlled everything and distributed their programs to a national audience via broadcasts to individual television sets. These television sets were obviously not like the flat screens we have now, but standard definition, small screens commonly found in like living rooms and bedrooms, mostly in living rooms. What this created was the notion of television as a waste of time and its only cultural significance found in the commercial collective experience of watching television rather than the television program itself. Overall, in this era, television had very little to no value as an artistic medium.
Jethro, now that we living in a city, you got to learn to use the steps.
However, as televisions got bigger and the quality got sharper and new time-controlling technologies such as the DVR, on-demand, and streaming came about, television began to break free of its conventional narrative as a live continuous medium and into a more user-controlled, legitimized medium. TV now had the ability to be engaged with in a different way, one meriting critical analysis like what we just did with our scene of The Bear. Movies have long been elevated culturally above television, especially since the post-war years of art cinema and auteurism and the subsequent establishment of cinema studies as a humanistic field growing out of literary studies. Prior to convergence, cinema was thought to be in a different stratosphere due to the intricacy and intentionality that came with analysis, a quality absent in the medium of television. Yet, the technological improvements of media convergence leveled the playing field between the two mediums. Actually, a better analogy would be merged them, or at least some distinct qualities. Television underwent legitimization through the medium cinematization, aligning the experience of movies with the medium of television. All of a sudden, there was a new appeal for creators within the medium. The canvas that they would be able to paint with could now be controlled in ways that they could have never thought to be possible. Television became the ultimate producer's medium. Showrunners in the past, like Sterling with The Twilight Zone, had total control over shows. Their fingerprints littered everywhere throughout the show's DNA. But this was only for episodic programs, no serialized dramas with concurrent narrative plots strung out across multiple episodes. What this created was a reputation of TV as a new form of producer's medium, a new appeal to the creator, alongside the notion of television as a legitimized medium. What this gave birth to was narrative complexity. At its most basic level, narrative complexity is a redefinition of episodic forms under the influence of serial narration. In broader terms, narrative complexity is basically the way that television evolved to create more complex and dramatic storylines through different narrative techniques such as the use of episodic episodes within serialized dramas. It is the way in which a story is compiled over a series of episodes and how that story is made with a more detailed and complex narrative, which invites and requires a more active engagement from the audience with the program, because that active engagement will allow for them to find something out that isn't obvious on the surface level. It needs to be rewatched, interpreted, and compared in order to derive that meaning. What narrative complexity does is allow for different opportunities for the tinkering of different unique qualities of the television medium for different effect. Using our example we looked at today, the Bear and the editing, cinematography, and overall creative team tinkered with the operational aesthetic. The operational aesthetic, or effect, works hand in hand with the content on screen to enhance the overall message the creator is trying to convey, creating a more complex narrative. This then forces us, the viewers, to, like we mentioned a bit earlier, engage actively with the medium, and the story then commands our full and utter attention as we try to unpack the spectacular display of storytelling craft we have just witnessed through the montage of the visual. The Bear is a prime example of great television, simply because of its willingness to treat its production with the same care and detail that you would associate with a cinema production. It is why, subconsciously, when we watch shows like The Bear, we make the effort to turn off the lights, click on Do Not Disturb, and open Hulu on our TVs to fully immerse ourselves within the viewing experience. We want to be attentive. We want to only focus on the screen, not be distracted by anything else. We want to understand the story, the characters' motivations, which are told to us in more ways than just the words we hear from the television. We cinematize our viewing experience because now, as a legitimized medium, the cinema viewing experience is the true, intended way for us to derive the full meaning of the show. And by true cinema viewing experience, I mean the constant and attentive and active engagement on our part as the viewer. Thank you for listening to my video essay. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, thanks.